Okay, good evening. I'm going to bring this meeting to order of the Dixon Unified School District Board of Trustees. We have no public present in the meeting at this time, so I will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Start. Okay, we are back from closed session. We have no announcements from closed session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Roll call. Lloyd.
Present.
Jewel.
Present.
Melissa.
I'm here.
And I am here. Catlin is excused for tonight. Okay, notice to the public. Persons wishing to speak to agenda items may present their written request at this time. While the written request is optional, those making a written request will be recognized first. Persons wishing to introduce a subject not on the agenda, okay, I'll read this and then I'll explain. Persons wishing to introduce a subject not on the agenda may also present their request at this time. The board president will recognize you for discussion at the appropriate time. We're not having open comment tonight as this is a special meeting. Speakers may be limited to 5 minutes per topic at the discretion of the board president. In accordance with board bylaw 9324B, the district may tape, film, stream, or broadcast any open board meeting. The recording or broadcast may capture images or sounds of those attending the meeting. Any district recording may be erased or destroyed 30 days after the meeting. Recordings made at the direction of the board during a meeting are public records and upon request shall be made available for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. So for anyone who's not participated in one of these before, when we open the meeting for public comment on the agenda item, and we only have one agenda item tonight, that being a discussion of change of the start of the school year in terms of the calendar, you use the reactions button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand digitally, and Mr. Monticello will recognize you to speak. Now, I will say, since we only have one item on the agenda and we do not have open comment tonight, that comments will need to be limited to the agenda item. As I've said in prior meetings, I try not to limit anyone, but please try to be concise and try to keep it under that 5-minute time period if possible. Brian, any comments before we proceed?
Yeah, just add a little bit, Luke, to what you explained there with regards to how the meeting should be conducted. One of the protocols that we want to make sure that we follow this evening as well is that all comments go through the board president and are directed to the board and don't become personal in any way, identifying anyone by name. We've had some experience here in the last little while where there was some crosstalk. Somebody said something and then the next somebody else making a public comment referred back to that person by name and in essence had some debate going on. That is not the purpose of this meeting, and we all need to be mindful of making sure the comments go through the board, are directed toward the board and go through the board. Luke is the arbiter of that process. Also, want to make a plea for people to be civil and decent and make this a positive, constructive discussion this evening to whatever degree there are things that people feel the need to discuss. Yeah, let's do this properly, please, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So our first and only item on the agenda tonight is information, discussion, and action 4A1, potential change to the 2020-2021 school year calendar.
Great. Thank you, Luke. Mark, if you can set me up to be able to share, I'm going to do that in just a moment or two here. So I think I would say, start by saying, we hoped not to have this agenda item at any point during the lead up to the start of the school year. We all intended and wished for the opportunity to start school on August 10th as we adopted a schedule calendar back on February 20th. Quite obviously, we're dealing with continue to deal with circumstances that we've never experienced before. And given those, and given the decision to go with full distance learning, it turns out, and I don't think anybody involved with the school district at this point in time, and I know there may be parents or community members who feel otherwise, that we need some more time to get ready. And in particular, the time that we need to make available is to our staff to be able to receive some more training, have the opportunity to plan and collaborate with each other by department or subject area and by grade levels as well. All of those other pieces, our staff needs more time and they need more support from us. The district administration and members of our educational services team in particular to help everyone get ready. Not too many people are fully aware that the normal calendar that we follow has, and in particular this year, we only had 2 work days scheduled for staff as a result of our calendar that was adopted back in February. Those were going to be this coming Thursday and Friday. And we have been involved in negotiations, which has been referred to previously. And we have proposed additional professional development days specifically related to reopening and dealing with the challenges of COVID-19. There's actually funding that we are being provided through the CARES Act, which can specifically be used for these purposes of holding things like professional development days, additional trainings for folks. There's also another pot of money called the Learning Loss Mitigation, which supports these professional development training activities. So the funding that is available for these things is specifically designated for these types of activities and is what we will intend to use as we ultimately get some of those PD days, as we call them, scheduled. So while I say we wish we weren't going to be here tonight doing this, we are here doing it tonight, and I think I'll speak for us and say it's the right thing to do given our current circumstances.
Right.
And we're going to do our very best to do it well at this point in time. So I'm going to put a calendar up here on the screen for everybody, and I'm going to walk through this. What we have tonight is a calendar that pushes the start date of school back by 10 days. So instead of starting on August 10th, this proposes a start on August 24th. Let me tell you how we got to this model. And it really, our work on this in earnest began after Thursday night's board meeting, in which several people asked about this. And we heard many, many voices from staff saying that they wanted more support, they needed more time, all of those types of issues, which I just touched on. So we scheduled negotiations with the team from the Dixon Teachers Association today, and after some preliminary discussion, we were able to show them 3 draft calendars, in fact. And while we did not come to any formal agreement, there was, I think, a general feeling in the room that 2 weeks was an appropriate amount of time to allow us to get better prepared for the start of the school year, and not so long that it was totally disruptive in terms of what families and staff have expected with regards to when vacations will happen and when the school year will end. So I'm going to walk through this month by month, and I think governing board, as has been the case here as we've gone through these, you have the ability to ask questions as we work through this. After you have asked your questions, and we'll kick it out for public comment. Okay. So as I said, we have moved the start of the school year from the 10th there down to the 24th. I mentioned the 2 work days that exist in our contract right now. And in this model, those 2 work days would become the 20th and the 21st. And what the district is eyeing at this point in time are these other 3 days during this week, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, as days that are available to schedule professional development and training activity if we can reach agreement on that with the Teachers Association. So this week of the 17th, not this week of the 10th, but the week of the 17th. So that allows time for us to plan and organize the full range of activities and just the time for staff to collaborate with each other to plan together that we know is important for them to do. So with the start of school now on August 24th, we move to September, and there's no change in the month of September from our adopted calendar. This is Labor Day, September 7th, and that's the only holiday or other unusual day in the month is that Labor Day. When we move to October, we again have a month with no changes to it. The 12th is a local holiday. We've been following that local holiday for a number of years now. And the 30th is also pretty much a standard workday that we've had in place. The primary focus of this workday is to allow elementary teachers and middle school teachers to get ready for parent conferences. So again, October has no changes, excuse me, from what we've seen in a number of prior years. This first week of November, which is shaded, I'm a horrible color guy, it looks like a light purplish to me. That's the week of parent conferences that happens across the elementary sites. And also the last 3 days, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, conferences are held at the middle school level as well. So this is the standard place in our calendar, this first week of November, where conferences are held. One difference that would take place this year is we would have less instructional time because we're starting 2 weeks late. We would have 2 weeks fewer of instruction under our belt before conferences are held. And so on one hand, that's a little bit of a concern that the conferences would be held sooner. And on the other hand, we think it's actually an advantage that with conferences sooner, parents will learn more firsthand from the teacher directly about the progress their child is making and how we can, what supports they may need and any issues that need to be addressed, right? So conferences remain there, even though that period is about 50 or so days instead of the typical 60 or so prior to conferences being held. November 11th is Veterans Day. That always has to be observed on the 11th. It can't be moved to a Monday or a Friday. We don't like it when it's in the middle of the week, but there it is. And then this week in yellow, the 23rd through the 27th, this is the Thanksgiving break. We had in at least one of our models toyed with the idea of having a return to school for the Monday and Tuesday of that week. We have become very accustomed to having the full week for the Thanksgiving break. And while we did have to find a way to create 10 days of space within the calendar, we did decide not to touch that Thanksgiving break at this point in time. So really the November month is also untouched with any changes in place. December, the only difference in December is that in our original calendar, the 16th, 17th, and 18th, so the 3 days right before we would break for the holidays, we're going to be final exam days at Dixon High School. So again, only a high school impact, the 16th, 17th, 18th being final exams. Given the 2 week shorter period of this fall semester, and given that the fall semester is already shorter in our adopted calendar, we would be moving the final exams into January. So final exams would not take place in December. They would take place in January, and I'll show you where in just a moment. Okay, but right now we are slated in our current calendar to break for the holidays, the last day being the 18th, and that date stays intact. So December, the footprint remains the same, just with the change in the final exams. So in January is where we start to begin to see some changes in the calendar. So currently, we are slated to return to school on January 6th, the Wednesday, January 6th. And our first recouping of a couple of days would happen here on January 4th and 5th. So instead of returning to school on the 6th, we would return to school on Monday the 4th, and then have that full week of school. We have not returned that quickly after New Year's in really a significant number of years. However, most of the districts in the area do return on that date. So we've had a long-standing practice of 3 weeks of winter break, and that has been modified just a little bit recently. And in this calendar model, we only have the 2-week Christmas break, which again is common in most other districts. January 18th is holiday. That's Martin Luther King Day. So that is a standard part of the calendar every year. And then when you see the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of January, that's where the final exams have been moved. So coming from the 16th, 17th, 18th of December, they land over here on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of January. And so there's 2 weeks and 2 days of instruction prior to finals exams beginning, which we're more comfortable with than some of the other options of having them sooner after the break is usually not conducive to good performance there. So January, the big impact here is the 4th and 5th would become student attendance days, regular school days. Okay. February has some change in it. In our currently adopted calendar, for the first time, this is my 22nd year in Dixon, 23rd year in Dixon now. I've started. We've never had a full week off in February. Some districts do this. And in our adopted calendar this year, we have off the 15th through the 19th. So that was combining President's Day with, I forget if it's Lincoln or Washington's birthday. And we have had some years with a 4-day weekend. But in our adopted, as of now, this whole week, 15th through 19th, is scheduled to be off. So this modification shows that we would have a 4-day weekend instead of a full week off. So Friday the 12th, and that would be the optional day. The 15th is President's Day. So we would have the 4-day weekend there. And instead of being off the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, we would be in school. So instead of 5 days, we've got 2 days. So we picked up 3 of our makeup days in February. So we have 2 of those in January, and then 3 of those here in February. So that's the halfway point to getting the 10 days back that we would need if in fact we start 10 days later. All right. So March has no changes to it from our adopted calendar. This shaded period, the 5th is there. The shaded period of the 8th through the 12th are parent conferences again. So again, 3 days, 10th, 11th, 12th for C.A. Jacobs, and the full week for elementary. This date, the 15th, which is identified as a local holiday, that had been established in our first calendar adoption back in February. So no change to any days off or days in session in March. In April, there's also no change. This 5th through the 9th is our spring break period. So everything else in April remains intact. In May, we also have no changes. The 31st is the Memorial Day holiday. Again, always celebrated on that last Monday in May. And finally, in June is where we make up the rest of our 5 days. The last day of instruction on our current calendar was on, sorry, I'm getting fancy pictures up there, was on Thursday the 3rd, and Friday the 4th was a work day for teachers. And with this proposed calendar, Thursday the 10th would be the last day of instruction, and Friday the 11th would be the teacher workday. So instead of students finishing on the 3rd, they would now be finishing on the 10th. And instead of teachers finishing on the 4th, they would now be finishing on the 11th. We have a whole range of employees who work the student calendar. So for any of our classified staff who are 9-month employees, their last workday would move from the 3rd to the 10th, just like our students would move. So some just quick recapturing here. A 2-week delay in our start from the 10th to the 24th.
That's unmute.
2 of our days made up in January on the 4th and 5th. 2 of our days made up in February during a period of time where we currently had a full 5 days off. And then no other adjustments until the extension of the end of the school year by 1 week. So that board is that summary of the calendar, and I would take any questions that any of you have on it.
Okay, any board questions?
None for me.
I don't have any questions, Luke.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so Brian, you said the whole week of August, which week is going to be the training PD week?
So the week of the 17th is the week that we would target. So currently on the calendar, the 20th, the Thursday and Friday would be the days in which we would, well, let me do it this way, Luke, actually. So currently, the 6th and the 7th are on our calendar as teacher work days, 6th and the 7th. So we would move those 2 weeks forward to the 20th and 21st. And what we view is the 17th, 18th, and 19th as being available for professional development days, subject to completing negotiations with the Teachers Association.
Okay, and the plan then is teachers would be able to have training not only on the platforms, but on how to better engage kids and such, which we heard comments about the desire for that.
Absolutely, and just time also for a grade level or a department to have collaborative planning time just to sit and work on their lessons and how to implement instruction effectively given our structure.
And is there going to be some teacher feedback for what kind of training they think would be useful during that week?
Yes.
Okay, and how are we reaching out for that?
So Nick's office in Ed Services typically has sought input regarding PD activities. We also are at the table with the association negotiations team, so that's another venue. But staff could anticipate a survey to be able to get some assessment of their needs. There's also a pretty significant training offering series that's out there currently available to staff that would be continued and built upon as well.
Okay, great. Any other board questions? Okay, let's go out to public questions and comment then.
Have Kathy Michaels up first.
Good evening, thank you. We just want to make sure I'm the co-president of the Dixon Teachers Association, and we want to make sure we have a statement in the record for the meeting tonight. Dixon Teacher Association recognizes that determining a calendar for the 2020-2021 school year is in the best interest of our students and our families, especially in order to be able to resolve some logistical issues regarding the start of school. The DTA bargaining team is not finished negotiating the reopening of the school MOU. Any board decision regarding the final school calendar is contingent upon the completion of these negotiations. And we know the board knows that, but we also want to make sure that the public knows that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Next.
Mishy's phone.
Go ahead, Mishy. Do we have Mishy's phone?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No
If
problem.
a child falls ill or has to be absent for one reason or another, how can the child make that time up in the classroom?
Well,
As
I'm
far
not.
as-
Yeah, I'm
as
not
like-
sure. I'm not sure that's part of this agenda item. That will certainly need to be addressed. I would suggest next week we have open comment, and that if you could come back and request ask that question at that time, or you could send
Sure.
a email to school closure and ask, and you can get an answer that way.
You're also going to see for parents with questions about instruction, attendance, those types of things, which again are not really under the umbrella of this agenda item tonight. The school sites are really kind of chomping at the bit to start to get some communication out to parents. We have some of these details to clarify before we do that. And part of the descriptors that will be coming parents' ways are related to some of those practices around makeup work and such. And really, the bottom line is things won't be much different than we were in person. We spoke about that a little bit last week, but fully expect that there's a zillion parent questions tonight. And actually, you don't have to wait till next week. Our regular meeting with a reopening agenda item is this Thursday, the 6th.
True enough. Yes, I apologize. Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have activities group up next.
Hiya. I was wondering, this year with the school closures and the computers, last year they gave out 2 computers per family, and it was an issue having one child be on one computer, one other child be on another computer, and then if you had 3 children, one child was always missing out on a Zoom call. In order to not have truancies, are you guys going to be giving out another round of computers, or is there a way for us to buy discounted computers from Dixon Unified?
Yeah. Again, that's not part of tonight's agenda item, but yes, there's one-to-one computers, and the district will be putting out communication about that. So every kid
Thank
can
you.
get their own computer. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next.
Sorry, I have Michelle up next.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. If this calendar is adopted and the 24th is the start of school, will class lists be posted as scheduled, as I'm assuming they would have probably be posted this Friday, or will that be postponed as well?
Can you comment on that, Brian?
Sure can, yes. So we're trying to get some time together to meet with our principals and finalize those details. What I understand sitting here today is that they have class lists are completed, and they've actually been working and are finished, I was told, without being able to confirm it, on the division between the A's and the B's for elementary, the mornings and the afternoons. So again, we need to finalize or clarify a few of the details related to the negotiations process to be able to send those communications out. But what I tell you right now is, again, class lists, so teacher assignments for your children, and the A/B assignments are ready to roll as soon as we can push send.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Michelle.
And I'll just add, Michelle, real quick, we have no reason to wait until the couple days before school. So those would come out as soon as possible.
That's great. I was just thinking kind of for preparedness, having, you know, the kids have been out for so long and I have an impending first grader and she's very nervous. It would be great to see the class list. Hopefully she has some friends in class that would kind of ease her mind over the next couple of weeks. So I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you. Okay, next.
I have Holly up next.
Go ahead, Holly. Holly, are you there?
Yes, hello, sorry.
Hi, no problem. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Next week would be basically a week off and teachers would come back starting the 17th and only having 3 additional days to prepare for the distance learning. Is that correct?
So I wouldn't call next week as a week off. I know it can appear that way on the calendar. So what, you know, there's actually been a large amount of teacher time already spent informally and off the calendar, and we give them a bunch of credit for this. Departments working together, grade level, some grade level work together as well. So commend that effort and the commitment that those folks are showing out there. So again, we would target the 17th, 18th, and 19th as PD days. The 20th and 21st are the work days. And typically those are spent with a lot of time teachers physically setting up their classrooms and things of that nature, bulletin boards, you name it, pushing crayons on the desks and all those types of things. And we know that work won't be there. So the vast majority of this full week, including the days which typically are designated as work days, would be available for training, for collaboration. Now, in the meantime, there are voluntary training activities going on this week and next week, and they continue after the return to work. So I know that tomorrow, I think there's 2 separate classes I may have heard, and Nick might be able to speak to that a little bit more effectively than I am. But our Ed Services Department is putting out opportunities for online trainings for staff right now. So the, you know, basically this time allows us to work with our teachers on their input on what they need. And then as we get to this week of the 17th, however many days we have there for PD, we'd be really well planned and targeted and try to meet their needs most effectively.
Is the reason being for that because there's negotiations aren't set? Because it seems to me if there's extra money in the budget, as you're saying, to help out with the COVID times, that we should be coming back, having teachers come back on the day they were supposed to, August 6th, and start training now so we can get our kids' education back to being the #1 priority.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thought. And we would not have enough funding to go all the way from the 6th up to the 24th. We could entertain less time, so returning to school, you know, conceivably on the 17th as an example, and not having as much time in there. But part of what we're looking at is wanting to make sure that we hear from them what they feel that they need and try to meet those needs as specifically as we can. So yeah, 2 weeks is a lot of time. I think it's kind of one of your underlying, if I can try to interpret that, Holly. But we do think that it would allow us to really get ready and have, you know, confidence. I know part of what we, you know, our staff needs to feel confident and capable with this. I think our parent community and students also need to feel confident and comfortable with the direction we're taking here as well. And I think the two, you know, from my chair, our team's chair, the 2 week period lets us do that most effectively.
Anything else, Holly?
No, my option would be, of course, I wish teachers could get paid starting the day they were supposed to and get as much training in so we can go and really do the 2.0 that we've been talking about and not go back to what we had in March. But I understand funding and I appreciate everybody's hard work on the board.
Thank you, Holly. Hey, and Brian, could you give some props with respect to that voluntary training you were talking about that's been done this week or last week, to some of the teachers that have been doing that?
Yeah, I'll let Nick speak to that. I have not been directly involved in that. Luke, I don't want to leave anybody out and how that's been planned. I've been frying other fish, so to speak. I'll let Nick speak out of the ed services world.
Yeah, so we've actually had professional development activities going on all summer, albeit not as much as we would like to have. And certainly anybody who we are bringing in to do that, we are compensating for that time. They don't have to do it. And so I want to make sure that it's just clear out there that, you know, we're using the resources that we have to honor people's time when they stand up and want to get that training. So really began in earnest last week on Thursday with some of the tech platforms. Again, we had, as Maria mentioned in our last meeting, close to 50 folks attend AVID. We've done some department level and grade level stuff at elementary and middle school, and at a little bit Dixon High School and some other departments. And so, yeah, I really want to thank folks for all that work that they've stepped up to do.
Okay, thank you. Next public question or comment.
I have John up next.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, yes. Hello. Thank you. You know, I have to be honest with you, Mr. Dolan and members of the board. I was having a password problem. I couldn't get on the meeting right at 6. I got on when you were going over the calendar, and it, obviously there's been some decision or vote that's already occurred, and I don't know if I missed it in the first 10 minutes.
No vote, John.
Okay.
I presented the calendar for consideration, and the board had a few questions, and now it's public comment time. So no decision's been made.
Okay, so but the proposal is to push back the start of school to August 24th.
Yes, 2 weeks.
And is the basis for that request, is it a lack of training issue, or is it, I've seen some comments floating around on certain Facebook pages that it's there may be a dispute about whether or not teachers should be back on campus or something, or I guess I'm not clear, and I apologize. I mean, we spent a lot of hours on Zoom about a month ago when the decision was made and the vote was made to go to 100% distance learning. And I know there's been some meetings since then. Admittedly, I have not attended those, but I'm just wondering, is it a training issue, a union issue, or the teachers being on campus? Is that the issue? And if it's the latter, I thought it was pretty clear at the last meeting that by going to distance learning, 100% of the faculty, or not the faculty, but the teaching would be done from campus to make sure that everyone was engaged in the learning process. So it sounds like a lot of things have changed since then, and I'm just asking maybe if we could be brought up to speed on that.
Yeah, so I will, within the parameters that I should adhere to here as we're continuing with negotiations. So yes, some of our timing challenges are because we have not completed the negotiation process. And because that is the case, and we've been doing it for a long time, we had our eighth session today over the last couple of weeks. So it's been a lot of time for both of us there. And we are trying to iron out some of the details involved there. And one of them, as you see on social media, does revolve around the physical location for work to be completed. So without getting into all the particulars of that, that is a factor in the delay. And the other thing, and I don't know if you were in the meeting yet, so by contract right now, we have 2 work days is all that's in place before the school year starts. And so one of the things we're trying to do through this process, and we all agree that they should happen, is to add some professional development days onto the calendar to allow staff to get more training, targeted training, and to allow them time to work together just on classroom lessons and how things would roll in, let's say if it's 3 second grade teachers, that they get to coordinate and make sure that they're following some similar practices and planning together, agreeing on assessments together. So the 6th and the 7th this week were the original, are the currently scheduled days for those work days. And we had been engaged in conversations about adding professional development days here. And we just don't have all of that agreement ironed out at this point in time. So that is part of the reason for the delay. And I don't want to, by no means do I want that to be heard as blaming the Teachers Association. A lot of complicated issues to work out. We're doing that in good faith. And both are committed to continuing to get to the finish line here.
Does that answer your question, John?
Well, it answers the question. I guess I don't know if this is the forum for it, or if there's going to be debate tonight about whether or not the teachers should be engaging in on-campus instruction, or is that's just been.
No, that's not on tonight's agenda. In public comment on Thursday, if you want to make a comment about that, that would be a more appropriate time.
This Thursday?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Meeting starts at 6. Regular meeting starts Thursday at 6.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
John.
I have Tammy up next.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, I have a question as far as this calendar being changed, and you pretty much made up most of the time except for that 1 week at the end of June. Is that going to affect the 21-22 start date, or will it just kind of start the same? And you may not know this, and that's fine. I get it. It's kind of thinking ahead, but will it just shorten the summer for the kids? And then they would potentially, of course, that COVID's all good and gone, is that they would start the school year next year at a normal school date, and they would just maybe miss a week or two of their summer. But next year's calendar, the 2021-2022 would then start at a regular time, or would this affect that as well?
Yeah, good question, Tammy. So the calendar every year is subject to negotiations. And as I mentioned a couple times, we adopted the calendar for 2021 back in February of this year. So about halfway, a little after halfway through the school year. We'd actually like to adopt it earlier. One of the reasons why we absorbed some of our days, half of them actually of the 10, within the footprint of the school year, because we didn't want to go any later than the 10th. If you had another week of school here, it does impact the size of that summer break. And vacation is an important thing for some folks. We're actually more concerned with a short summer around summer school programs that get offered for our migrant students, some of our students with disabilities, some math development intervention kind of work, and then credit recovery for high school students. So there are several reasons why we don't want that summer to get any shorter, but ultimately the start date for next year will be determined in negotiations that would usually start about October.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tammy.
I have Audra up next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
sure
you
can.
can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, so this calendar is proposed. So my questions then are, when would it be finalized? And are there any sticking points? I mean, I assume that since you're presenting it to us, that it's pretty well knocked out. But are there any possible changes or areas that are problematic or still under discussion?
Good question. So the board is going to be asked, I'm going to ask the board tonight to approve this calendar, and it would only become implemented contingent upon agreement with the Dixon Teachers Association. So the completion of negotiations, and we have the negotiations going on many topics related to distance learning and this school year, this being one of them. So what I can say is there's a general feeling that this is the right way for us to go between us and that association, but the I's are not dotted and the T's not crossed yet. So as soon as those are finished, and again, we're working on those together virtually every day here over the last 2 weeks, that this would become the official blessed version. That teachers would ratify the agreement that we would reach a tentative agreement on. So I can't give you an exact date when this would become official, But we know when school starts and when breaks are and when school ends are huge factors in how families roll, how their lives unfold. And so we wanted to make sure we got this out tonight with the anticipation, and well, the hope and the anticipation that this is what will be formally adopted in the end. So kind of a placeholder stake out there for us to target, I think would be the point I'd try to make.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you. I know everyone is working so hard on this, and it's just a crazy time, and I just really appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being involved.
I have Jennifer up next.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Not at all. Go ahead.
So I have a question. I think that it was kind of already answered about if the staff was able to be on campus or not. Is that still not a topic for tonight?
And not a topic for tonight. We continue to work on it in the negotiations that are going on.
Okay. So, and is that something that would be addressed on Thursday?
It will be. We'll have a more open agenda item on Thursday. So yes, it could be discussed.
Okay. And then my other questions were already answered. So.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have Kurt up next.
Go ahead, Kurt. Kurt, are you there? I see him and he does not appear muted, but I can't hear anything.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Dolan. Hey, board.
Hi,
Thank
Kurt.
you guys for taking my call. Mr. Dolan, real quick, I got a quick question for you. Now that I am at the high school, so I really like this new calendar with the training days that are proposed. So because we don't have an approved with the DTA stuff as of right now, those training days, are those considered to be on Zoom training with our colleagues, or are we going to be on campus because of this whole negotiation stuff?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea, or is it just kind of in our own history department, social science department, science, English, kind of getting together by themselves?
Yeah, so kind of bleeding over topics here, Kurt, but I appreciate the questions. You know, what's in person and what's on a distance basis, we're continuing to talk about, but meetings in general right now, the focus of those will be that they're done in Zoom or Google Meets. So while there will be collaborative time in whatever comes together in terms of final dates, number of days and such, those would be held virtually.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, any else? I don't see any other hands up. Any other public questions or comment on this agenda item?
I'm seeing none.
Okay. Okay, so seeing none, we'll close public comment. And so on item 4A1, I will entertain a motion to approve the suggested changes to the 2020-2021 school year calendar.
And if I may just kind of describe for the record, once again, what the motion should include, that's okay?
Please, go ahead.
All right. So what I would recommend as the motion is that the board adopt the revised calendar for the 2020-2021 school year as presented, with final implementation contingent on agreement with the Dixon Teachers Association.
So move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Motion passes.
So if I can just talk a little bit about next steps, Luke, if that's okay.
Please, go ahead.
All right, so we will do our usual communication blast out tomorrow, which will include emails to all of the families that have an email address in our system. And I'm going to really encourage families, if you don't get our emails right now, it's because we don't have an address for you in our system. So please contact your school offices where the phones are getting picked up, and they'll be physically open here in a quick minute to give them your email address. So right now, if you're not getting our emails, it's because we don't have an address for you. So please get those in. It's a very reliable way for us to get our messages to you. They are delivered in both English and Spanish. And it's real clear when things come. We also place all of our communication on our district webpage, so just www.dixonusd.org. We also place all of our information out on the Dixon Unified School District Facebook page. And I'll tell you that I have 3 or 4 Facebook friends. They all have lived with me at some point in time, either as my wife, my children, or my son-in-law. We don't have the dogs as Facebook page friends, but they would be good ones probably. So I don't Facebook, but I do use it as a tool to get communication and receive information, and quite honestly monitor a little bit about Dixon 411 and things like that, and what's being talked about out there with regards to the school districts. So by no means do I tell everyone they should join Facebook, but it is a tool for our communication, including a lot of enjoyable things that come out throughout the course of the school year. So tomorrow, early in the day, we will start to blast out this news. We will put just a Facebook post up this evening with that message, and it'll go out widely tomorrow. We will then begin here just as soon as we can to see the school sites beginning to communicate information about student assignments, who their teachers are they A or B, those types of things. I know that Dixon High School is holding a virtual orientation tomorrow evening. Please go to the Dixon High School webpage, and this is for 9th graders and new students. I believe it's for new students as well, but certainly for 9th graders. There's going to be a lot of information coming quickly over the next couple of weeks. Every time we put out something like an email about this change in schedule or things like that, we will also try to do one of the automated calls notifying people that there's a new email or a new post on our website or new Facebook link. So I know people get tired of the calls at times, but right now they are important notifications that there's some new information out there available. There are certain pieces of information that we will mail home as well, and that's quite a process for us to take under the effort to complete here. It's about a full day process here in the district office. I think we've done 2 US mailers home so far, but you will see additional ones coming, and in particular from the school sites with regards to the instructional information that's going on. I've been trying to, we have put out a Friday communication throughout the whole summer. There's been some additional ones as well. Those will continue in addition to the information that you're going to start to see coming from the school sites here just within a couple of days. So we will be continuing to work on finalizing our agreement with the Teachers Association, and again, appreciate their time and effort that they're spending with us as we work down this path. Want to recognize that we have a lot of teachers who are working together off the clock, so to speak, a term that we use. These are not paid work days in preparation for the school year. Also want to give a shout out. We have a little bit over 60 employees who are currently on duty in person doing their work. They range from our custodians and maintenance and grounds workers to clerical staff, support staff here in the district office, and the staff in the school offices out at the sites as well. and the entire administrative team is on duty, and all those folks are working in person, completing their duties and trying to make sure that things are running smoothly prior to the start of school, and that our roles in opening school successfully are completed. So I want to thank all of those folks who are back working already. A lot of time and energy put in, and we appreciate them in the midst of all of this. It can be easy to forget that that many people are actually back on duty already. So with that, Luke, I will let it go. Just tell people, stay tuned for more information. We'll get a quick post out. You can share it with your friends on Facebook here in a minute, and then more detail tomorrow. We will have, tomorrow we'll attach the full version of the calendar for people's reference, and email that to everybody as well.
Thank you, Brian. And if people have any trouble reaching the office staff at the sites to update their email, is there another place? Can they email?
Yeah,
school closure?
please just email schoolclosure@dixonusd.org. And if email is the issue, that you don't have an account or there's some sort of problem you want to clarify, if you do, you can also make a phone call to the district office, 693-6300. I'll say that again, 693-6300. And then our office is also, here at the district office, is also open to the public every day from 7:30 to 4:30. We're at 180 South First Street, right downtown. Main breezeway runs through. Typically the door is open into our reception area. If not, there's a stand-up sign with some guidance on social distancing. So our office is open for the public, 7:30 to 4:30 as well. We're currently still taking enrollments here out of our building, and that's going to change to the sites here really quickly if it didn't already. But the phone call, come by the office, or email schoolclosure@dixonusd.org.
Great, thank you. And with respect to items that were not on the agenda, not discussed tonight, we will have Thursday night with open comment, and people can raise any issues that night.
Right.
Could I ask one question, Mr. Dolan, based on the motion that carried tonight?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Mr. Dolan, when you said the motion carried to move it to August 24th, you stated there, it sounded like you included a caveat at the end that said it was contingent upon DTA approval. So are you suggesting that August 24th is not even potentially a start date?
I'm not, yeah. John is an attorney, everybody, if you didn't know that already.
That is a good question. So what, and I think some other people kind of asked, I guess the question as I see it is, if an agreement is not reached, do we start on that date or not? What happens, and do we know?
So there's multiple possibilities there, right? And could the date be pushed back by circumstances? Certainly. Could the date stay put without a full, entirely broad agreement on all the issues that are on the table right now? That's possible as well. What I think I would say is that we're all committed to trying to work through this and remove any questions on all of the issues related to us. And there are some tough, complicated issues that we're still working on. What I would say is, with regards to things such as this calendar and the instructional schedules for students and some other conditions in the overall agreement, that we have a lot of consensus and a lot of shared opinions on things. So if you had to say, oh, there's 20 items that we have to address, the vast majority of those items are things that we're on the same page on. Unfortunately, a couple of the bigger things are on that list of things that we haven't finished. So what I can assure you is that we will keep you folks updated on the progress towards having this calendar finalized. And any other components that are critical for students and parents to know, we will make sure that you are absolutely up to date with those developments. I said a few minutes ago, I've been doing weekly communications with some add-ons. And I think we're, until school opens, probably looking at every day or every other day with some communication out. And I know my messages can be lengthy, and I apologize for that on one hand. And on the other hand, I say that you need to know everything that we're telling you, sharing with you. So you could look for some shorter, more frequent updates, including the status around the calendar.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, do we have any board requests for agenda items for future meetings?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I have none also.
Thank you, Melissa.
And Luke, I do not have any as well.
Okay, thank you. Any board announcements?
No.
No.
Okay, see none. Coming events, Thursday night board meeting. Open meeting starts at 6. And first day of school, as we just discussed tonight, tentatively, depending on agreement by the DTA. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I'll move.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Meeting done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.